So one of the most important lessons to making our writing more involved is using what we call smiley face tricks. This is just a clever word for narrative tools in our writing, and that's what we're going to be looking at today. These tricks are used to make our writing better. That's why we want them in our writing, and that's one of the reasons why they're a required part of our project. Basically, we're trying to learn different ways to make our writing have better fluency, more content, better ideas, and also think about our word choice. The first smiley face tricks is the use of a magic 3. Now, the idea of a magic 3 is that it's 3 parallel groups of words. These groups of words are going to be separated by commas. It's important to note that these are not 3 separate sentences, but one sentence using these 3 groups of words. For example, I was so excited that I jumped up and down, comma, cried huge tears of joy, comma, and plastered a huge smile on my face. For example, my palms became sticky and shaky, my neck tingled with anticipation, and my heart puttered with emotion. I love to relax by reading a favorite book, comma, sitting in my yard watching my animals, comma, or eating out with friends and family. So those are all ways, if you notice, the magic of 3 phrases made into one sentence to create this rhythm or motion. About figurative language, and that would be our next smiley face trick. Figurative language is the word to cover all the specific types of figurative language. For instance, similes, metaphors, personification. These are all non-literal comparisons, and it's used to add spice to our writing. I gave the example in class how I had spoken to my daughter when she was 3. I told her I was on cloud 9, and she was confused because she literally looked up to the sky and thought, there's not 9 clouds, and Mom, you're on the ground. That's literal thinking. The opposite of literal thinking is to make these comparisons to add spice to our writing. For instance, use a simile, and we can compare 2 things using like or as. For instance, she is as pretty like a summer day, or he is as fast as a jaguar. Use a metaphor and compare 2 things. Just like a simile, it just doesn't use like or as. For instance, her mind is a sponge that absorbs all the detail. Another type of figurative language, hyperbole, and this is an extreme exaggeration. For instance, the books weigh a ton. If they did on our back, we wouldn't be alive. I'm doing a million things right now. As we know, that's impossible. Extreme exaggeration. Of figurative language is personification, and this is when we give those inanimate objects without a heart, without breath, human qualities. For instance, the sun smiled on me today, or the wind kissed my cheek gently. So those are examples of figurative language. This trick is where we use specific details for effect. These are our sensory details, our 5 senses. What do you hear? What do you see? What do you smell? What do you taste? Of our 5 senses, again, hearing, seeing, smelling, tasting, touching, what that looks like. Specific details for effect, let's look at this example. I started shivering. I could taste blood in my mouth and smell it in my nose. It had a cold, metallic taste that made my stomach twist inside out. I tore away from Pieter's grip and ran back to the rail, emptying my stomach over the side. As gross as that example may be, look at how descriptive it is. You can see it, smell it, hear it, taste it, touch it. Type of smiley face trick is repetition for effect, and this is when we specifically choose a word or phrase to make a point. And the reason for that is because we want to stress something to the reader. Think about the first vignette from House on Mango Street, how she kept repeating, you live there, there. Of that would be, I knew I had to have a house, a real house, one I can point to, but this isn't it. The house on Mango Street isn't it. So we want to make that point about a house. The next type of trick is an expanded moment. Now, in an expanded moment, this is where we take that moment in time, and what we're trying to do is make it really last for the reader. A lot of times we skip past a really good part in our story. We tend to just say, I fell out of the tree and broke my arm. In an expanded moment, we slow it down and make it clear to the reader. We had to leave the flat on Loomis quick. The water pipes broke and the landlord wouldn't fix them because the house was too old. We had to leave fast. We were using the washroom next door and carrying water over in empty milk gallons. So notice how we could have just said, hey, we had to leave this particular place really quickly and left it alone. Instead, the reader has expanded it and shown you why they're leaving really quickly. It's a great technique to use in our writing. When we want to add humor, we want our reader to laugh along with us. You just have to be careful that you don't make it sarcastic. So you want to make sure that your humor is something that is truly funny, that isn't going to insult someone. Favorite smiley face tricks are hyphenated modifiers. Modifier is a new way of saying something. We take these adjectives that we would use to describe a person and we link them together to make one word, and that's why we have the hyphen between them. The teacher looked at me with her "I'm going to give you a detention" look. When I was getting dressed for school, my mom had this "you'd better wear that red sweater your grandma knitted you or else" look. See how they're all linked together? She gave me a "let's be friends" handshake. She gave me the "I don't like your t-shirt" look. So notice how all those words are grouped together to make the hyphenated modifier. Another technique, and one of our last ones for smiley face tricks, is coming full circle. So many times as writers we struggle with how to end our piece, and we overlook the really easy step of ending where we start. Full circle ending is a great ending that wraps up the pieces. And one way to do this is to repeat a phrase, perhaps with a slightly different word, from the beginning. I might start off in the beginning, "I sit quietly on the old wooden deck, watching the birds soar through the humid air. The ocean waves are like wrinkles gathered up on one place." And at the end, I'm going to come back to that wooden deck. Watch how I do this, but even though I change the words. The clouds are so delicate, so fragile, yet a single plane could not break their perfect form. I sit quietly on the old wooden deck, watching the birds, the waves, the clouds. So notice how it didn't have to be the exact same sentence or two from the introduction, but I started off on the deck and I come back to the deck. These are our smiley face tricks, and my importance to you is to go forth and improve your writing. Remember that these narrative tools are all techniques that can help us out with our writing.